So welcome to this latest video 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over the GCSE Maths practice paper of 2023 Foundation Set 4 Paper 2, which is a calculator paper. Now as always I'll include a question breakdown so you can see which question refers to which topic to aid your revision. So let's get started on this practice paper of 2023 Foundation Set 4 Paper 2, which is a calculator paper. So looking at question 1, it says what is 10 as a fraction of 20? So what we need to do here is just write our 10 and then write that over 20 and then just simply simplify this fraction in its simplest form, which is going to be a half. Question 1b then says what is 10 as a percentage of 20? So again we're going for 10 over 20 and we want to multiply that by 100, and so 10 over 20 is a half, and a half times 100 is 50%. Then moving on to question 2, it says that a fair ordinary dice is rolled once. What is the probability of rolling a 2? Well, there is 1 2 on a dice and there are 6 numbers altogether, so it's going to be 1 6. It then says work out the probability of rolling an even number. Well, there are 3 even numbers on a die and there are 6 numbers altogether. Then if we simplify this fraction, it then becomes a half. Moving on to question 3, it says simplify 5x times 2x. Well, 5 times 2 is 10 and x times x is x squared. Then moving on to 3b, it says simplify 12x take away 8x. Well, 12 take away 8 is going to give me 4, and we're dealing with x's, so the answer then is 4x. It then says on your calculator or otherwise work out 5 1/4 times 2/3, and it says give your answer as a mixed number. Now again, because it says you can use your calculator, that's exactly what we're going to do. So when you are using a mixed number and your calculator, try and use the mix function operator. So try not to write a fraction and then just simply scroll across to write a number there. And the reason for that is because by doing this, what it actually does, it multiplies the whole number by the fraction. So here if I do 4 1/2, then rather it being 4 1/2, it will actually just do 4 times a half, which is 2. So that's, and you can see there on the calculator when I press equals what it's actually done. So to get the mixed number, all you need to do is just press the shift and the fraction button, and then you can then enter the correct numbers in the right place. So here we've got 5 1/4, and then we scroll across and multiplied by then a single fraction of 2, 3, press equals, and it comes 7 over 2. Then if you want a mixed number, just press shift and SD, and it comes up with my correct answer of 3 1/2. Moving on to question 5, it says in a rectangle there are 6 masses, and it says show that the sum of the 6 masses is 8 kilograms. So what you want to do here is just convert the masses so that they're all in the same units. Now we want to give it into kilograms, so let's just convert all of these into kilograms. So that's going to be 0.85, this is going to be 0.65, and this is going to be 0.5. Then adding all those numbers up, I've got 1, 3 and 2, so they're the whole ones. Then I've got 0.65, I've got 0.85 and 0.5. And again, as it's on the calculator paper, all I've got to do is just simply stick them in my calculator, add them together, and it comes up with a total of 8 kilograms. Alternatively, you could have converted them all into grams and then added them all together, and you still would have got 8,000 grams, which is 8 kilograms. Moving on to question 5b, it says 2 of the masses are moved from A to B. The total mass of each rectangle is now equal. Which 2 masses move now? Well, if I do 8, which is the total, divided by 2, that gives me 4 kilograms. So that means that each rectangle needs to have 4 kilograms. So only picking 2, I need to move 4 kilograms from A to B. So the 2 that need to move are going to be the 1 and the 3. So all I need to write here is 1 kg and 3 kg, in which you can write those numbers in any order. Moving on to question 6, it says multiply out the brackets. So here we've got 3 times 2x, which is 6x, and then 3 times positive 5, which gives me positive 15. Then for question 6b, it says factorise 8x minus 4. Well, the highest factor of 8 and 4 is going to be 4. So what do I have to multiply 4 to get 8x? Well, that's going to be 2x. And what do I have to multiply 4 to get 4? Well, that's going to be a 1. And I need a minus in there as well. Moving on to question 7. it says an experiment has 4 outcomes, work out the probability of B. Well, if there are only 4 outcomes, then all of these probabilities need to add up to 1. So here if I do 0.1 plus 0.2 plus 0.3, that gives me 0.6. If I take away 0.6 from 1, that gives me with 0.4, so the answer then is 0.4. Moving on to question 8, it says a number has one digit. It is one more than the number that is both a square number and a cube number. Is the number a prime number? So looking at this, if we write down the square numbers, so we've got 1, 4 and 9, and then we've got the cube numbers, which is 1 and then it's 8 and then it's 27. So here it says that a number has one digit. It is one more than a number that is both a square number and a cube number. So therefore then the number must be 2. So here, so if I write down the number is 2, and is 2 a prime or not prime? Well, it's prime. And let me just make sure that sentence makes sense. Then moving on to question 9, it says complete the pay statement. So here we just need to work each of these parts out, in which I'm going to be multiplying these two. So 35 times 14.3 on the calculator gives me 550 pence. Then 7 times 18.8 gives me an answer of 131.60. Then 4 times 21.45 gives me 85.80. Then I just need to then add all those numbers up, so I get 717.90. Now in terms of the deductions, I then need to add these two numbers up, in which I get 150 and 40 pence. And then the only thing that's left for me to do is to enter this number, take away this number, in which then I get my final pay of 567.50. So moving on to question 10, it says in the Venn diagram we've got the numbers of 1 to 12, M represents the factors of 3 and F represents the factors of 24, and it says put the numbers of 1 to 12 in the Venn diagram. So first of all, let's start by writing numbers from 1 to 12, inclusive of those numbers. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. So looking at multiples of 3, so they're numbers that appear in the 3 times table. So we've got 3, 6, 9 and 12. Then if I look at factors of 24, so let me start by writing that using a colour. So factors of 24 are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 and 12. So looking at this, which numbers have got both? So numbers that have got both, that are coloured in yellow and with a green circle, are 3, 6 and 12. Then which are exclusive to of just got green? Well, that's going to be 1, 2, 4 and 8. Then which ones have just got yellow? Well, that's going to be 9. And then which ones haven't got any of a ring or been shaded? Well, that's going to be 5, 7, 10 and 11. Then moving on to question 11, it says that triangle ABC is isosceles. Work out the 3 possible values of B. Well, for this, with an isosceles triangle, well, either this angle could be the same as this angle for it to be isosceles. So therefore, angle B can be 50. Then if I change that up, and let's say that these two angles are going to be the same, then that means that this angle here is going to be 180 minus 50 divided by 2. So 180 take away 50 is 130, divided by 2 is 65. So B could also be 65 degrees. And then what we could also imagine is that this angle and this angle are the same. So that's going to be 50. So then to work out this angle here, I then need to do 180 minus 50 minus 50, which gives me an answer of 80. So the three possible angles that B can be are going to be those three numbers there. So I can write 50, 65 and 80. Actually, I can write them in three spaces. Did not know that was there, so let's just write that. So 65 and 80. So moving on to question 12, it says that the nth term of a sequence is n squared. Work out the 15th term. So this is basically when n is 15. So then I've got to work out 15 squared, which on the calculator gives me 225. Then says which term in the sequence is the first one with a value greater than 1000. Well, here what we need to do is square root 1000, in which I get 31.6 recurring. And so which number is going to be the first number? Well, 31 is going to be too small, so it's going to be the 32nd term. Then moving on to question 13, it says before an election 33% said they would vote for party A, 10% said they would vote for party B, and 15% said they would not vote. All of these voted as they said, and the rest of the population, a third voted for party A and 2/3 voted for party B. Who got the most votes? Well, first things first, let's just work this out. So we need to work out a third of, so let's first of all work out what these percentages are. So the total percentage of what we've got here is by adding 33 plus 10 plus 15. So 33 plus 10 plus 15 gives me an answer of 58%. So that means that the rest is going to be 42%. So then from this, what we then need to do is then work out a third of 42. So if I work out a third of 42, that equals 14%. Then if I work out, and this is party A, then for party B, so I'm just write party A. So in party A, if I add on the 33%, it's going to give me a total of 47%. So if I then work out party B, and that's going to be 2/3, so 2/3 of 42, which is 28%. I then need to add on the 10% that they've got, so plus 10%, and that comes out to a total of 38%. Then the ones who did not vote is going to be the remaining 15%. So which of these has the greatest number of votes? Well, it's going to be party A. It then says 6,600 people did not vote. How many did vote? Well, 15% equals 6600. So then to work out 1%, I divide 6,600 divided by 15, which equals 440. So then 100% is going to be 14,000. Now, in terms of who did vote, well, 85% did vote. So what I then want to do is work out 85% of 44,000, which to do that, just going to do 0.85 times 44,000, and that comes up to an answer of 37400. Then moving on to question 14, it says two rectangles are shown on the grid, and it says the two rectangles are congruent, which basically means they are the same size, and it says work out the values of A and B. Well, looking at this rectangle here, which I'm going to label as A, first of all, what I need to know is the dimensions of this rectangle. So looking at the length of that rectangle, what I've got to do is compare the x ordinates. So what's the difference between -2 and 7? Well, that's going to be 5. And then comparing the y ordinates, which is therefore going to give me the height of that rectangle, and the difference between 2 and -2 is 4, which means then the rectangle is 5 by 4. So that means going across, it's going to be going 4 and going up, it's going to be going up 5. So then looking at the x-ordinates, well, the x-ordinate is 5 here, so if I need to add 4, that's going to be 9, and the y-ordinate is 6, so adding 5 is going to give me 11, and those two numbers here give me my coordinates of A, B, so A is going to equal 9 and B is going to equal 11. Moving on to question 15, it says that the diagram shows a circle, the radius of 5 centimeters inside a square, and it says work out the shaded area. Well, the shaded area is equal to the big shape, so the area of the square minus the area of the circle. So if the radius of this circle is 5, that means that this length here is going to be 5, which means then that the dimensions of the square are going to be 10 by 10. So the area of the square is 10 times 10, which is 100. Then working out the area of the circle, well, area of a circle is equal to pi r squared, and the radius is 5. So then the area of the circle is going to be pi times 5 squared, which equals 25 pi. So then working out the shaded area, it's going to be 100 minus 25 pi, which you may have already converted into a decimal, and if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 21.5 centimeters squared, and that's been rounded to 1 decimal place. Then moving on to question 16, it says work out. So here the bases are the same, so when we're dividing, we take away the powers. So 12 take away 3 is 9. And when we're multiplying, we add the powers. So that's going to be 5 to the power of 9 plus 2, which is 5 to the power of 11. Then moving on to question 17, it says work out the length of x. So here we've got right angle triangle and it's got angles and sides, so it's going to be a trig question. So labeling this up, I get theta, this is going to be the opposite, and this is going to be the hypotenuse. So the trig ratio I'm going to use is going to be sine. So sine theta equals O over h. Then substituting numbers in, I get sine 20 equals x over 12. I then take the 12 over, so x equals 12 times sine 20. If I type this all into my calculator, press equals, and I should get the answer of 4.1, and that's to 1 decimal place. Then moving on to question 18, it says write 140 as a product of their primes in index form. Well, again, if we're going to use non-calculator methods, even though it's calculator paper, we want to think of two numbers that multiply together to give me 140, and then you just want to circle the prime numbers. So here I've got 5 and 4, and then I've got 2 and 2. So then that gives me 2 squared times 5 times 7. You want to make sure that you are using powers, so if you wrote 2 times 2 times 5 times 7, you would lose a mark because you've not collected the 2's. Alternatively, you could have done this on your calculator. So if you just type in 140, press equals, and then if you've got that factor function on your Casio calculator, it will give you your answer straight away. Moving on to question 19, it says £6,000 is invested in a 2.5% compound interest. Show that the value of the investment after 2 years is £6,303.75. So for compound interest, we have the original amount. Now we always start with 100%. Now with interest, we're adding on 2.5%. So that's going to be 102.5%. And then this number as a decimal multiplier is going to be 1.025. And then we multiply that to the power, we have that to the power of the years, which is 2. And if I enter that in my calculator, I get 6303.75. Then moving on to 19b, it says in the third year the interest rate falls to 2.4%, and in the fourth year the interest rate falls to 2.35%. Will the interest in year 4 be more or less than the interest in year 3? So if we first of all work out year 3, well, in year 3 the starting balance is what we got in part A, so it's 603.75. We then need to multiply that by a decimal multiplier of an increase of 2.4%, so that's going to be 1.024. and we press equals, and that gives me 6455.04. So then the interest amount is going to be 6455.04 minus 6303.75, and that comes up to a total amount of 151.29. Then for year 4, well, my starting amount now is 6455.04. My decimal increase, well, compound interest is 2.35%, so that's going to be 1.0235. Press equals, and that comes up to 606.73. So then working out the interest amount that I received that year, well, it's going to be 6606.73 minus 6455.04, and that comes up to an amount of 151.69. Now what I then want to do is compare these two amounts. So which one is bigger? Well, it's going to be year 4. So it's going to be, so the box I need to tick is going to be more. And again, 151.69 is greater than 151.29. Or you could write that in words. It's entirely up to you. Moving on to question 20, it says the table shows the waiting time of people at a health centre, and part A asks work out the estimate for the mean weighted per person. So for this, with group data, you want to work out the mean. So the first thing I need to do is work out the midpoint. And how do I work out the midpoint? Well, it's the midpoint between the upper and the lower bounds. So add them together, divide by 2. So 10 plus 0 is 5. We then get 15, and then we get 25. I then need to create my fx column. So my fx column is where I multiply the frequency by the midpoint, in which I then get numbers of 210, 450, and 200. Now with the last one, because it's 0, 0 times whatever is automatically going to give me 0. So then adding up the total frequency, this column here, I get 80, and adding up the total fx, which gives me 860. Now the estimated mean, well, the formula is the sum of fx over the sum of f. So in other words, it's the total fx over the total frequency, which is 860 over 80. Now if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 10.75. Now does that look correct? Well, yes, because most of my data is between these two intervals, and which number of those two got in common? Well, it's going to be 10, so I'm expecting an answer within 10. Then for question 20b, it says on a different day the waiting times were recorded for a different group of 80 people. Without further calculation, decide whether the estimated mean for this group will be different from the estimated mean in part A. So for this, as you can see, well, we had an average of 10.75 rather, but as you can see, we've got more people that are more than that. So now out of 80, we've now got what, 45 people that are more than that. So you would expect the answer to be higher. And again, you could write something along the lines of that there are more people over 10 minutes. So something along those lines would be absolutely fine. Moving on to question 21, it says work out the values of a and b of this identity. So here all we need to do is expand the bracket. So we've got 5ax plus 12 plus 2x plus 2b equals 22x plus 6. Now from this, what I then want to do is I then want to compare the coefficients of x. So I'm going to put a circle around everything that's got x on the left hand side, so that's 5a plus 2, and I've got 22 on the other side, so that means that 5a plus 2 equals 22, which therefore means that 5a equals 20, so a equals 4. Then if I look at the coefficient of the constant, then what I've got, so everything that hasn't got an x, I'm going to put a circle around it. So on the left hand side I've got 12 plus 2b, and I've got plus equals plus 6. So then 2b equals minus 6 by taking the 12 over to the side, then dividing by 2, so I get an a value of 4 and a b value of -3. And that concludes the end of this paper.